Hello there, welcome back to Anything with Alvin. Today I decided it would be kind of fun to play around with some Kraft mac and cheese. Now for me this is pretty nostalgic and I grew up with a lot of different ways to upgrade it and make it my own and kind of feel like I was cooking at home. I feel like this is one of those foods where everybody kind of has their own ways to jazz it up. With stuff they have at home, with stuff they, can make with their friends. And honestly, one of the biggest reasons why I wanted to make this video was because there was a massive discount when you bought them in bulk, so here we are. Let's have some fun today, shall we? And just a heads up, all these upgrades and combinations were either from personal databanks or from scouring Reddit and the internet, so thank you for your ingenuity, your ideas, and hopefully you get to see some of your favorites come to life. Alright, first up, the Blake Lively. Now, according to the internet, she posted this on her Instagram story a while back. She said that she really loves mac and cheese, but she doesn't really use the traditional box recipe. Instead, she adds a heavy splash of milk, a third a block of cream cheese, and 2 handfuls of freshly grated cheese, specifically something sharp like a cheddar and a combination of a more milder cheese. Now, this one seems pretty fun. I do like the addition of cream cheese, so let's give it a try. We're gonna prepare the box as usual, except in these cases, I actually like to undercook the noodles by 3 minutes. Compared to what they recommend on the box. Usually they say 6 to 8, I go for 4. Because I think by the time you're done, you don't want them mushy. This helps them give a nice chew. So I'm gonna boil the water, pour the noodles in, cook them for 4 minutes, drain them, and just like Blake Lively says, I'm gonna add in a heavy splash of milk, a third a block of the cream cheese, 2 handfuls of freshly grated cheese, and mix together. And the result is really nice. This looks luscious, this looks cheesy, this looks so appetizing compared to the normal box, even though there's nothing against that. And I think just by visuals alone, this is kind of those creamy mac and cheeses that if you like that kind of thing, this would definitely be your vibe. Almost like the thing you find at a side dish at like a fried chicken restaurant or something. All right, this is it, the Blake Lively mac and cheese hack. Let's give it a taste. Now this is really good. The cream cheese adds such a nice tang and you get a lot more of that sharpness from the cheese, but it still tastes like that delicious box mac flavor that we love, just upgraded. Next up, brown butter mac and cheese. Now this is something that I personally wanted to try. Usually when you make Kraft mac and cheese from the box, you add in butter and milk and all that good stuff, but I wanted to see if we can take up the flavor a little bit because if there's butter, I usually try and brown it. So with the butter that they recommend, a couple tablespoons, I'm just gonna brown that slowly. I think the key to browning butter is making sure that you do it and scrape off the bottom the whole time so none of those residue bits get burned. And I take it to the color of Guinness is what a pastry chef once taught me. Usually people, when they brown butter, they don't brown it all the way. I kind of like to take it to the edge where you're not sure if it's burnt. But the tricky thing is it can burn quite easily. So after taking it to a nice dark brown or burnt noisette color, I'm going to pour in the noodles that we cooked off to the side. These are the same traditional noodles from the box, just cooked for 4 minutes in the water. And I want to toast these noodles a little bit first to get those aromas going. And then I'm just going to add in a splash of milk and cheese powder as normal. So the only difference between this one and the normal box mac and cheese is the fact that we browned the butter first and we toasted the noodle. So let's see if this actually does make a difference. Now, from both a color and an aroma point of view, this is already clearly darker and more rich and just nuttier than the traditional one. And if you compare the taste, I would say the difference is pretty significant. You can immediately taste and smell the brown butter notes in it. And honestly, if you're just gonna make traditional box mac and cheese according to the package instructions and you have everything, I would say it's worth a little extra couple minutes to brown the butter because this will take that to the next level where it just takes off the edge of that typical box mac and cheese flavor and gives it a nice little upgrade without having to use any extra ingredients. Okay, next up, how about mac and cheese gratin? This is kind of just making a typical breadcrumb topped mac and cheese, but with Kraft instead. So to start this off, I'm going to take some fresh mozzarella, some cheddar, and some Gouda and cut those into little tiny cubes. Then we're going to cook the Kraft box according to normal instructions. Now when I say normal box instructions for these kinds of dishes, I actually omit the butter because there's a lot of cheese going into this and I cook again for 4 minutes. So once those cheese blocks gets mixed in and everything looks nice and cheesy and gooey, I'm going to spread this around into a small cast iron pan. And then off to the side, I'm going to melt just a pat of butter and mix in a handful of seasoned panko breadcrumbs. You could also use regular breadcrumbs, or honestly, if you have fresh breadcrumbs, that's great too. Mix that together, throw that on top for a nice little crispy topping, and that's going to go into the oven at about 450 150 degrees until it's nice and golden brown. Kind of a quicker way to dress up instant mac and cheese into something that's more commonly found on a dinner table in the middle of a party. This got some nice crunch on the top, got some nice chewy, cheesy goodness in the middle. This one is great. Crunch is there, the seasoning's there. It doesn't taste nearly as complex as if you made a complete homemade mac and cheese with your own special seasoned breadcrumb mixture and spent a couple hours on it, but I will say it is enough to where you could probably fool the majority of people if you needed something quick to bring to a party that didn't look like instant Kraft box mac and cheese. Honestly, I probably would have cooked the noodles for 3 minutes in this case because there's a lot of time in the oven, but I don't think people are worried about al dente noodles and mac and cheese that much. Alright, let's move on to our next upgrade. BBQ Chicken Mac and Cheese. This one has a lot of the flavor components of barbecue chicken pizza, such as red onions, rotisserie chicken, some scallions, barbecue sauce, and cheese. So first up, I'm going to slice up these red onions, and then just to break the rawness of those red onions, I'm going to throw those into the hot noodles and kind of let them wilt just a little bit so they don't have that sharp red oniony taste. Then I'm going to add a splash of milk, a handful of rotisserie chicken or cooked chicken. You could probably use other meat if you really wanted to. So rotisserie chicken, the cheese powder, some barbecue sauce, and scallions. To be honest, I don't really have any measurements for these. These are all by eye, and I'm sure you could probably just adjust according to however you'd like to make. Because I don't know about you guys, but I don't really measure things when making this kind of food at home. Give that a nice mix, and look at that. That's some nice looking barbecue chicken mac and cheese, giving it a smell and giving it a taste. It does actually taste like, well, those like California Pizza Kitchen's barbecue chicken pizza. It's got all those flavor notes, signature of the red onion, the barbecue sauce, and the chicken and the cheese. And honestly, this is the most delicious one that I've had so far. I'm definitely going to be keeping an eye on this and eating it off camera as we make all the other ones. I think everything cancels out nicely. The sweetness, the tanginess, the cheesiness, the chicken. This is a knockout win. Now this upgrade, this is a personal mac and cheese recipe. This reminds me of coming back home after a long day in 7th grade, finding mac and cheese in the pantry and finding some leftovers my mom had in the fridge and kind of combining it to pretend I was a chef. So first, I'm going to take some butter and sear up some of this ground beef. Now, it's a lot of ground beef, and I'm just going to set aside half of this because we're going to use the ground beef for later. And into this ground beef that we have remaining into the pan, I'm going to add a little bit of soy sauce and some honey to kind of almost give it that teriyaki-ish, soy flavor that I really enjoy, and it's really easy to make. And once that's all done, the beef is going to get removed. I'm going to deglaze that pan or pot with hot water and cook the noodles in that. That way we get as much flavor as we can. After the noodles are cooked, according to how we normally do it, I'm going to add in the ground beef, which has been glazed with soy and honey, some chopped scallions, and the cheese powder, milk, everything good. Give it a mix. This is comfort to me. This is nostalgia. This is one of my first attempts at trying to cook at home as a young kid, and it tastes delicious. Everything goes together. There's no real cohesive theme to it, but you put ground beef with soy and scallions and cheese together, it tastes like home. And it's really, really, really good. I didn't mess around as a kid. All right, the next upgrade, we're gonna go ahead and make taco mac and cheese. Some cheddar, ground beef, jarred salsa, lime juice, and some paprika. So we got some cheddar that I'm gonna grate. And after that's done, I'm gonna go ahead and make the Kraft box like normal. I'm gonna add in the ground beef that we had from earlier, some salsa from the jar, that grated cheddar, the cheese powder, and a little bit of lime juice. And for seasoning, I thought we had taco seasoning, but we actually didn't. So I'm going to use some smoked paprika because that's kind of similar. It has a nice smoky flavor and I like that. So that's going to go in too. Give it a nice mix. Put it in a bowl, top with a little bit more paprika, and yeah, that's taco-ish mac and cheese, I guess. Has a little bit of those flavors, and I think the jarred salsa and the ground beef really take this to the next level and go really, really well with the cheesy flavors of the box. Very solid all the way through. Pretty quick considering that a lot of the stuff probably came from the supermarket. Ready to go. Alright, up next is a Cajun style mac and cheese. This one we got some sausages, red onions, garlic, and scallions. First, I'm going to cut up those sausages. I'm going to slice up the red onion, slice up the garlic, slice up some scallions, and over to the stove we go. And goes a little bit pat of butter. First, I'm going to cook off the garlic until it starts to get a little bit brown around the edges. Then I'm going to go ahead and start cooking the onions until there's a little bit of color on those as well. Then those go into some cooked Kraft noodles. While that hangs out on the side, I'm going to sear the sausage to make sure that we get some nice color and get the fat and juices out of it. Those are going to get tossed into the noodles. And instead of putting the milk directly into the mac and cheese, I'm just going to deglaze this nice, delicious pan with the milk first and then pour that in. Then I'm going to combine everything else with the powder as normal. Also add a little bit of Old Bay for that Cajun-esque flavor. And then yeah, that's our Cajun style mac and cheese with the sausage and onions and all the good stuff and aromatics in there. This one is delicious. It's hearty, it's flavorful. If you wanted to add extra Cajun seasoning, I'm sure that could work too. But I feel like the flavors that we have going on already are great. Yeah. All right, up next is a cacio e pepe style mac and cheese. I apologize to the Italians watching, but sometimes you just kind of want those flavors and you might not have that much time. We're gonna create the box mac just as normal, but instead I'm gonna use half of the cheese packet. I'm gonna grate some fresh Pecorino Romano cheese in there, some good handfuls of that, as well as some healthy cranks of black pepper. To mix this all together, and as a hybrid between instant mac and cheese and cacio e pepe, this is pretty good. It does the trick if you want those nice cheesy peppery flavors, but it doesn't require all the fuss of necessarily having everything and all the ingredients to make the whole thing. I think this is a nice little upgrade that could just be used with some extra cheese, because chances are you probably have black pepper lying around. Okay, next up, more of a greener, more vegetable-y, but not necessarily healthier version, pesto mac and cheese. I thought that having things like cherry tomatoes and pesto would be a nice contrast to the cheesiness of the mac and cheese, so this one's pretty simple. Cut the cherry tomatoes in half, throw those into the noodles, mix them around until those cherry tomatoes get a little bit warm, but not mushy. Add in the cheese powder, a good healthy spoonful or two of the pesto, and just mix it up. And yeah, everything works together nice. I can't see why any of this would not go with each other, and it's just a nice little way to jazz up your mac and cheese if you have some vegetables and a little half-eaten jar of pesto in your fridge, because it works. All right, the next one, pizza mac and cheese. This one's a little bit more fun and a little bit more involved with some dry mozz, kind of chopped up into little cubes. Take some of this pepperoni, chop those up into little pieces, and then into our craft box that we prepared normally. I'm gonna mix all those things in along with a little glug of marinara sauce. Once that's all mixed together, we're ready. You could technically eat this as is. It's pizza mac and cheese already, but we're gonna take this a step further. We're gonna pour this mixture into a steel pan, spread it flat, top this with a little bit of marinara sauce all over, top with a little bit more fresh mozz, and a lot of pepperoni. I've learned to cover the entire surface area, whatever you're baking, with pepperoni because they're gonna shrink. This is gonna go into the oven at 400 degrees. And even though this looks like one of those like crazy internet food creations we do for the sake of doing it, which it technically is, this one is actually really good. I was shocked by how good this was. There's a lot of depth of flavor. It tastes like pizza. It actually was really good that it was claimed immediately as leftovers. Yeah, that's a winner too. All right, this next one for a little bit more something substantial and somewhat balanced, broccoli cheddar chicken, which I definitely saw a lot of people making at home online. So first we're gonna chop up some frozen broccoli florets into little pieces, gonna grate some fresh cheddar. You have this rotisserie chicken here. I mean, this one's pretty simple. You kind of take these things, prepare the craft box as normal, and throw all those things in with the sour cream, the milk, and the cheese powder, and you just give it a big old mix, and out comes a somewhat more substantial and balanced meal. You have some extra vegetables and protein in there, and because broccoli and cheddar is a pretty classic combination, this tastes really good, and along with the tanginess of the sour cream delight, I can see this being something that you might want to, make on a more consistent basis. That would work well in almost any situation. You could probably even throw more cheddar and broil it in the oven if you really wanted to. All right, on to the next one, which again was commented by a lot of people, especially on Reddit, that seem to just love making this at home. Just tuna and peas mac and cheese. Very easy. You got your craft box, you got your canned tuna, you got frozen peas at home. You could just throw this together. Nothing too crazy about it. Make the box as normal. Add in the drained, important, can of tuna and some frozen peas. Stir it up until it's all nice and good, and yeah, this is again substantial. The saltiness and the fishiness of the tuna gets counteracted by the cheese, and the peas kind of help break through that with their own green little bubbles of pea stuff. Not necessarily my favorite one compared to the other ones, but definitely something that would work in a pinch and can probably be a staple if you just had these things lying around and didn't want to, spend too much money making food. All right, next up, some bacon egg mac and cheese. Heavy emphasis on the bacon here. All right, first we're gonna cut our egg. We're gonna cut our bacon into little chunks. I'm gonna crisp it up in a pan until we have nice crispy bits and some bacon fat. Toss our bacon into the pot of cooked craft noodles and definitely set aside some of that grease. We don't need all of it, and cook the egg in the remaining bacon fat. What's great about this one is that instead of butter, you can use bacon fat instead to flavor your mac and cheese. Once the egg is a nice sunny side up, mix those things up as normal, And yes, once again, we are going to add scallions. One thing I've learned is just like in ramen of any form, scallions tend to go really well with mac and cheese, both in color, flavor, and texture. Okay, the egg goes on top. I'm gonna top this with scallions, crack some black pepper, and this is our beautiful bacon egg mac and cheese. Go ahead and pop that egg yolk, because that is the rule. Spread that over, get a nice bite. Yeah, this is delicious. Bacon, funny as it is, cuts through the mac and cheese with its smoky and saltiness, although not necessarily in health. But this one is a winner. Yeah, I'll just let Tony take this one because he really likes this one. I wouldn't eat this for breakfast, but it does taste really good. Alright, buffalo chicken mac and cheese. This one is something that Steve actually likes to make a lot, he said. Pretty simple, rotisserie chicken, hot sauce, got some cream cheese. Yeah, we're just gonna take all these ingredients, prepare a craft box according to normal package instructions, which is -3 minutes on the cook timer for the noodles, and just mix everything in and give it a bite. The tanginess and the spiciness from the hot sauce counteracts a lot of the stuff. The cream cheese has a nice little body to it, and this one it tastes exactly like what it sounds like, and it is good. I'll give this one to Steve. He wants this one. Saves him a step at home. Alright, now this is the one that I've been really excited for. This one is a steak and caramelized onion mac and cheese. So here, we have some red onions that we're going to slice up really thinly. And I have over here some boneless short rib. I'm going to take these and cut these into little chunks and make sure that they get a nice sear in the pan with a little bit of butter before they're taken off to the side with some black pepper. I like short rib because it's very versatile. You can overcook it and you can cook it medium rare and it'll still be delicious because it's one of those cuts where even though if you get it well done and past well done, it'll either braise and break down or it'll still be nice, somewhat chewy and flavorful, which I think is really good for applications like these where you don't necessarily know what kind of meat you want to use. So in the same pan that we cooked the beef, we're going to sear the onions and get a nice color on it using up those remaining beef juices and fat. And then just to add a little bit of acidity, I'm going to add some splashes of honey and vinegar to make sure we have a nice acidic component that will go with our cheese and our steak. And yeah, after we combine the onions into our typical craft box mix, I'm actually going to not throw the steak inside, although I'm sure you could, but just for presentations and texture sake, I'm actually going to plate the steak on half of it on top of the bowl. And this is a black pepper short rib and caramelized red onion mac and cheese. Definitely a little bit on the fancier side. You know, the steak probably costs way more than the box and everything else combined, but it is one of those things where, you know, you want to get some luxury on the quick. This one undoubtedly tastes really good. Those nice, juicy, fatty short rib chunks go really well with the cheese, and the onions are such a nice welcome bite with the vinegar, the onion flavor, and a little bit of sweetness from the honey. This one's an all-around winner. I personally had to fight a little bit to make sure I could get some extra bites in before everybody else took this one down. That one's a winner. Alright, now something that I've personally done a few times at home. This next one is chili crisp mac and cheese, or laogan mac and cheese. First up, I'm going to slice up this garlic and scallions, going hard with the aromatics on this one, because again, in Chinese cuisine, garlic and scallions are very prevalent. This one is all about the aromatics. Once our garlic and our scallions have been nice and prepared into a pot, I'm going to heat up some chili oil and cook the garlic in it directly. So that way we get some nice flavors going on in the pot before anything else starts. And before the garlic starts to get brown, I'm going to throw in the scallion whites, making sure that they cook down a little bit because they are a little bit sharper than the greens. Then into this mixture, I'm going to deglaze with some black vinegar, Chinese black vinegar, and honey to add some sweetness. And then I'm going to throw in the cooked craft noodles we had set aside. Then everything else kind of goes in typically as normal. The milk, splash the cheese powder, the scallion greens, mix that up. A little bit more chili crisp in there because why not? And we're going to plate this up. And you know what? Just going to put a little bit more chili crisp on top as well because it's really hard to not be really addicted to this stuff. And this one is the laogan mac and cheese. One thing I've actually seen served at restaurants, although probably not the instant box version. And this one is, not surprisingly to me, but maybe to other people, very good. So much flavor coming from the chili oil combining with the cheese as well as the garlic and the scallions. Kind of has all those strong, allium flavors melding really well with the cheesy, mellow flavors with the mac and cheese. This one is a winner, especially if you have any people that really like chili crisp. That's one way to get them really excited. And the color is beautiful from the chili oil as well. Okay, this next one I kind of thought would be fun to try to play around with because I've seen people make French onion soup dip, but I thought, what if you just threw that into mac and cheese instead and make French onion mac and cheese? Because technically a French onion soup also has cheese in it. So into our typically prepared craft box, I'm going to throw in a packet of the soup mix, a good couple of spoonfuls of sour cream, and mix in everything. normally. And just for some extra cheesy flavor, I'm going to grate in some Gruyere cheese right at the end to kind of emulate what you would have in a French onion soup with the cheese on top. Yeah, this one tastes oniony, cheesy. It's one easy way to get that onion flavor into your mac and cheese without having to cut up any, especially already if you have a pack of this lying around. It's really good. You could probably even use bread if you really wanted those extra carbs, but this tastes good enough on its own. In the same vein of using pre-packaged products that you probably have in the pantry, cream of mushroom was another one that I saw on the internet. I think this was on Reddit. So first we're going to chop up some onions, saute them in a little bit of butter to get some nice sauteed onions for some extra oomph. The cream of onion soup comes out from the can in a nice satisfying few glops. Go in with our sauteed onions, mix in with the milk and the cheese powder, and even though this is a little bit on the saltier side, I still say this is a really nice way to get the mushroom flavor in and jazz up both instant products into one not instant product technically, because 1 + 1 = square in this scenario. All right, this next one is taking a note out of Andrew's book. We're gonna do some hot dog stuff. This one is chili dog mac. I'm gonna take these packet of hot dogs, chop them up, and Tony actually brought in a amazing rotating cheese grater, which blew my mind compared to the traditional box method, because all you gotta do is push it down and rotate it, and all the force you're applying actually gets used efficiently in the right way. I love this thing. After the cheese is grated, I'm gonna give those hot dogs a nice sear, mix in the chili, the hot dogs, the cheddar, and well, you know me, some scallions into the prepared mac and cheese box. Add a splash of milk, some more cheddar, mix that in until it's nice and delicious looking, and more cheese and scallions on top, just for some color. So now it actually looks like good chili. And the flavors, I think you can imagine, it goes pretty well together. Once again, taking 2 packaged instant products ready to go into one beautiful new thing. Jazz it up with some scallions, hot dogs, and cheese, and you got a whole dish. Definitely a party pleaser for sure. Not surprised that this ended up on, or is already on, like TGI Fridays menus. Okay, now we're just having fun here. We're making chicken bacon ranch mac and cheese. As you can see, I got some frozen chicken nuggets here. You can probably use dino nuggets because that's what I grew up with at home. I'm gonna chop those up, toast them into a pan until they're nice and golden brown all around. I'm gonna prepare the box of mac and cheese as normal. And instead of just mixing everything up, which I'm sure would be delicious, I'm gonna layer these things. First goes in the mac, followed by a sprinkle of chicken nuggets. That's a funny sentence to say. Followed by some bacon, which has already been cooked, crisped up, and chopped up, and a drizzle of ranch. Not too heavy, and it sounds insane, but I'm curious to how this will turn out, because chicken bacon ranch, for some reason, it works like a charm. We're gonna repeat that layer one more time with the mac and cheese, the remaining chicken nuggets, the bacon, a little topping of ranch, which again sounds very funny as a sentence. And this is gonna go into the oven at 400 until it's nice and brown and bubbly. Top this with a few scallions, and let's dig in. Now, you might be a little hesitant, and I was too. I was a little apprehensive on the fact that it might taste just like too much and weird, but this was shockingly delicious. Everything went together so well. This is one of those things where you take it, your eyes goes wide, and instead of just saying words, you start clapping and pointing at it and nodding your head. Yeah, this was a certified banger for sure. Even though it's not good for your health by any means, this is very, very, very good. Probably one of the best ones we've made yet. I think baking it also added a nice little crunch and caramelization to whatever the heck touched the pan, so it wasn't all this gloppy ranch bacony mess. This is a winner. Okay, we're gonna go for another direction here. Let's go for Spam Kimchi Mac and Cheese. Kimchi mac and cheese has definitely been popular in the restaurant world. It goes well in so many menus, considering the fact that a lot of the flavors from kimchi and gochujang in Korean cuisine goes well with cheese and is commonly served with cheese in Korea and in Korean restaurants. So this one just makes sense. I'm gonna chop up some Spam, fry those up with some scallion white, so we've again chopped up to get some flavor going. Take this kimchi, throw that in and saute it so those nice raw flavors kind of get cooked out a little bit. It becomes a little bit more mellow. I'm gonna dump that into our cooked noodles from our boxed mac and cheese. And I'm gonna deglaze the pan really quickly with the milk, pour that into our noodles, then add in the gochujang and cheese powder along with scallion greens. Once everything's all mixed together, yeah, this is some nice kimchi Spam mac and cheese. Color-wise, flavor-wise, everything makes sense. It goes together well. I can see why this is quite popular at restaurants. This one is a winner as well. Almost gives the same vibe of adding American cheese to Shin Ramen or something like that. Both have the spiciness and fermented flavor from the kimchi going well with the cheese. So yeah, this one's a good one. Almost in a way kind of tastes like budae-jjigae or Korean army stew, which also has like ramen noodles, spice, Spam, and American cheese, and scallions. Maybe that's just one of the formulas for good food. Alright, clearly you've seen me use too many scallions at this point, so I'd say why not, let's just go ahead and make a scallion lover mac and cheese. I've actually had this idea in my head for a while based on some stuff I do at home. So we have a lot of scallions here and a good amount of garlic as well. So what I'm gonna do is cut these scallions up roughly, not into slices, but more like chunks and stalks. For this method, they don't need to be precise. So first, I'm going to blanch all these scallions in boiling water for about half a minute or so. I don't want them to turn dark like gray green or yellow green. I want them to still be bright. So once they take out, I'm going to put in our garlic, which has not been blanched. And then I'm going to season this with a good pinch of salt and a little bit of sugar and immersion blend this. This is actually a sauce and a condiment that I keep at home almost all the time. It's like a scallion garlic puree that actually my friend Eric from 886 and 11 taught me. He kind of uses this as a condiment for his restaurant in a different version and recipe, and I took inspiration from that and use this as kind of like a nice flavor addition sauce at home. Got this nice beautiful green color. I think he roasts his, but I think blanching helps maintain that green color. And once this is all blended together, we have a nice delicious scallion garlic puree. Now this is going to go directly into our prepared box of Kraft mac and cheese, along with our cheese powder. And if you really like scallions, you're gonna like this one a lot. If you don't like scallions, you probably won't want to eat this one. But since I like scallions, I think this one is really delicious. There's a lot of that bite to it, and it really goes well together because you have the cheese and the milk, and you have the scallions. And that's just a good time. Okay, now we've gotten to the point where we've made a lot of mac and cheeses, and we have leftovers. And this is actually the Blake Lively one that we made from earlier. It was left over and it's in the fridge, and well, what do you do, right, if you can't finish mac and cheese? Well, one thing I found that you can do, you can turn it into grilled cheese, because the mac and cheese already has so much soft, starch and milk and cheese inside of it that it's a natural conveyor belt to turn it into something more delicious. So 2 nice slices of sourdough I'm gonna go down, and I got some pieces of sharp cheddar that we have slices of. I'm gonna lay that down on the bread, and I take out the mac and cheese and use it as almost like a spread, sandwiching that on top of the 2 slices of cheese and putting the remaining 2 slices of cheese over that and finishing off with the bread. Now this is going to go into a pan with a little bit of butter and sear for about 5 to 7 minutes on low heat with a lid, is what I've learned for thicker grilled cheeses, to try to get everything warmed through. Let's give that a flip. Wow, that is a nice crust. I like that crust. That's a nice crust. I'm going to flip that, let the other side go for another 5 to 7 minutes, and ta-da, grilled mac and cheese. This is, let's give this a cross section, some nice crunching. There it is. I'm sure you could use as many other cheeses as you want that would probably melt a little bit better. But from a flavor point of view, this is good. Tony really liked this one. I was a little too full, to be honest, to eat more at this point, so Tony had to take one for the team, and he gladly did and will do again for this sandwich. Crispy, crusty, with sneaking bites of it as we were shooting the other ones. This one's a winner. Alright, in the theme of leftovers, we do have a lot of ingredients left over from all those other ones we did. We have a lot of meat. We're gonna call this one the Meat Lover's Supreme Mac and Cheese, using up as many leftovers as we can. Chop up the remaining amount of Spam, chop up the sausage, chop up the pepperoni, and throw in some mushrooms and onions to make sure that we have something to add some bulk and to counteract the flavors of all this meat and cheese we're about to throw in. We're gonna grate up all the random blocks of leftover cheese from the chute in Tony's grater, as well as the random ones we found in the fridge that we could use. And once that's all done, I'm gonna take 2 pans this time. I'm gonna brown the meats, trying to get those fats and oils and juices all seared up nice and deliciously. And in one pan, after the meats are done, I'm gonna throw in the mushrooms. And in the other pan, I'm gonna throw in the onion and cook these individually until they're nice and delicious. And once they're all good and really browned up, I'm gonna go into this one glorious meat mushroom onion mixture. And then we're gonna cook 2 boxes of instant mac and cheese according to normal instructions, and we're gonna throw in all of the grated cheese we had from earlier, along with the leftover sour cream, a heavy splash of milk, and all of that delicious, glorious browned up meat mushroom onion mixture until we have this deliciousness. And then finally a heavy dose of scallion whites, which will hopefully help fight back all that intense flavor from everything else. Give it a nice big mix. This is our Meat Lover Supreme Deluxe leftover everything cheese, meat, cream, onion, mushroom, mac and cheese. And yeah, this one was very good. I may or may not have claimed most of this to take home by myself. This was a fun one. I learned a lot about mac and cheese, and I would say one of the biggest takeaways is that it is nice to have scallions in the fridge when making anything at home, because 1, they go really well with mac and cheese, and 2, this box is a lot more versatile than I thought. I would say that you can almost add in anything you want, and the cheese and the noodles kind of become this bed for almost any kind of seasoning and flavor that you want to infuse. You might be wondering, you guys didn't finish all of that, did you? There's no way you could have eaten every single thing. And you're right, we didn't. After every finished recipe, we immediately placed it into a takeout container, and Tony was kind enough to label all of them. These are all of our leftovers. These are some of the ones that I feel like really stood out to me in flavor and just creativeness, and how much I'd want to eat it again, and how much I was shocked at how good they were. And don't worry, Tony's gonna take home a lot, and I'm going to make sure that these mac and cheeses find a nice home at some of the restaurants that I like going to. Their staff are probably very hungry, and I'm sure they could probably use this as part of their staff meal. So these will all be going to the right people. There's probably so many other combinations that people like to do that I haven't even touched. And I'm sure you have your own favorite combinations as well that you like to do at home, whether it's a variation of these, whether it's a new one. The ingenuity that I've found on the internet for people who like to make boxed mac and cheese knows no bounds. So I hope this inspires you to play around with your whatever you got lying around at home, and hopefully find other ways to enjoy this nice little blue box.